Investigating elasticities. Oil is a natural resource taken directly from the earth, and as such is a primary good, a good used in manufacture of other goods. Primary goods are necessary for the creation of other goods, making them relatively less price elastic than manufactured goods. Oil is used as the base of the fuels of most vehicles, including ships, planes, cars, and trains. Its importance in transportation makes oil a necessary good, a good that is very difficult for consumers to do without. This means that oil has a low price elasticity of demand, or is price inelastic because consumers still consume a similar amount regardless of price. Firms can increase the price of price inelastic goods without significantly harming demand, and so can increase total revenue by raising price. This brings us to the determinants of price elasticity of demand, which includes the aforementioned necessity of the good, the number of closeness of substitute goods, the breadth of the good's definition, and the time frame considered. If a good has many effective substitutes, then consumers will switch to other options when price rises, and elasticity will be high. If there are few alternatives to a good, then inelasticity will be lower because consumers have no other option. A broadly defined good like food in general will have lower elasticity than a narrowly defined good like bread, which has substitutes that would not be considered separate goods under the broader definition. Finally, the more time consumers have to change their consumption patterns, the more able they will be to decrease consumption of pricier goods, and the higher the elasticity will be. PED, primary versus manufactured goods. Primary commodities tend to have lower PED values because they are necessities and have no substitutes. For example, food and oil. Primary commodities are relatively inelastic. However, manufactured goods tend to have higher PED values because they're more luxury items with substitutes, such as laptops and cars. Manufactured goods are relatively price elastic. Why is this? This is because of availability, luxury or necessity, proportion of income spent on them, and time period. Bikes are manufactured from other materials, making them a secondary or manufactured good. Bikes serve as a means of transport and have a relatively low necessity compared to the relatively high number of substitutes good for transportation. Combined with their status as a secondary good, this makes bikes relatively price elastic. Firms selling price elastic goods should not increase prices, as the lost demand would outweigh the per unit revenue increase for a decrease in total revenue. Cross elasticity of demand measures the change in the price of another product. Scooters provide compact transport similar to bikes, and so bikes and scooters serve as relatively close substitutes for each other. Substitute goods share a positive cross elasticity of demand. This means that an increase in the price of one will cause an increase in demand for another as consumers switch to the cheaper option. Firms have to keep an eye on other firms selling substitute goods and be ready to lower prices in order to retain demand if the competition drops their own price. Bike tires are a good that is used in conjunction with bikes. When people buy more bikes, they will also need to buy more bike tires. When people buy fewer bikes, the demand for bike tires will drop as well. The cross-elasticity of demand for complementary goods is negative. This means that an increase in price of one good will lead to a decrease in demand for the other good. Firms may be interested in engaging in partnerships with firms selling complementary goods because they profit from each other's success and their interests are aligned. Some firms may also find benefits in taking over the supply of complementary goods themselves in order to capitalize on success of primary good production. Fine dining is not something that consumers require for their lives, but is rather a luxury good. Fine dining is also a superior good that is a good that has a high positive income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity is a measure of change in demand for a good in response to a change in consumers' overall income. As a superior good and a luxury good, fine dining rises with higher consumer incomes and falls with lower ones. A superior good like fine dining acts as a preferred option to inferior goods like McDonald's Happy Meals, which have a negative income elasticity and decrease in demand when consumer income rises. Firms should thus aim to supply superior and normal goods with positive income elasticity in markets with high or rising incomes and supply inferior goods in markets with low or falling incomes. Finally, elasticity and the government. Price inelastic. Products that have a PD lower than 1 are price inelastic. Governments can tax price inelastic goods heavily as it would result in a small decrease in demand. For example, if oil has a PD of 0.5, the government were to tax it so that the price of oil would increase by 10%, demand would only decrease by 5%. Price elastic. Products that had a PED more than 1 are price elastic. If governments want to increase the demand for a good, they could subsidize the industry. For example, if gym memberships have a PED of 1.6, the government would subsidize the gym industry so that the price would decrease by 20%, demand would increase by 32%.